My name is Sophia, and my life has always been defined by one word: struggle. I didn't come from privilege, nor did I grow up in a home where money was simply there when you needed it. No, every little thing in my childhood had to be earned, bargained for, or sacrificed. For years, I told myself that one day my life would change. I dreamed of a moment where I would finally be free. Free from overdue bills, from worrying about whether I could afford groceries, free from the invisible chains of poverty that bound me tighter than anything else ever could. That day came, and when it came overnight. I still remember the exact evening. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, staring at a pile of bills spread out on the kitchen table. Rent was overdue, my electricity was about to be cut, and the job I had wasn't paying me enough to cover even the basics. My chest felt heavy as I stared at the numbers. Survival was all I had ever known. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email from a lawyer's office I'd never heard of. At first, I thought it was spam, but something about the subject line caught my eye. Regarding the estates of Mr. Hamid Khan. Hamid Khan? I froze. That name. He was my mother's distant cousin. I had only met him twice in my life. He was older, wealthy, and childless, but he had this aura of mystery about him. People said he owned businesses overseas. He lived quietly, far from family, and rarely appeared in family gatherings. Honestly, I never thought much about him. But the email said he had passed away. And then, the shocking part. I was named as one of the beneficiaries in his will. The lawyer asked me to come to the office. My hands shook as I held the phone. Could this be real? Could this be some cruel joke? The next morning I went. I sat in a leather chair, nervous and restless, while the lawyer explained everything. Hamid Khan had left behind a significant inheritance, and to my disbelief, I was chosen as one of the main recipients. The amount? Enough to turn my entire world upside down. Yes, you read that right. I, Sophia, the same girl who cried over overdue bills, was suddenly wealthy beyond my imagination. I walked out of that office stunned. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The air felt lighter. My body felt lighter. It was as if life had finally rewarded me for all the years I had suffered. I remember running home, shutting the door and crying into my pillow. But this time, the tears weren't out of pain. They were out of relief, disbelief, and joy. Overnight, my entire reality had changed. Suddenly, I wasn't just Sophia, the broke girl. I was Sophia, the wealthy heir. Wealth has a way of changing not only your life, but also the people around you. At first, it felt magical. I could finally buy things without checking my wallet 3 times. I moved into a beautiful apartment with sunlight streaming through wide windows. I bought clothes I used to only admire from shop displays. I ate at restaurants where I once couldn't even afford an appetizer. But soon, the people changed. Cousins who had never texted me suddenly started calling. Old friends reappeared, talking about memories we once shared. Even neighbors became oddly friendly, asking about my new life. At first, it felt good. For once, I wasn't invisible. For once, I mattered. But beneath the smiles, I could sense it. The envy, the hunger, the whispers. Lucky girl. She doesn't deserve it. Why her? I ignored it. I told myself that money had finally given me freedom. But freedom, as I learned, is fragile. Because one single crash can erase everything. It happened so fast, I didn't even realize it until it was too late.
I had been advised by a family friend, someone who called himself a financial expert, to invest my money into a business deal. He was smooth, confident, and persuasive. He told me, Sophia, money multiplies when you take risks. Don't just sit on your wealth, grow it. I was hesitant at first, but he was persistent, and eventually I gave in. I signed the papers, I invested nearly everything into his venture. I told myself this was the smart move, that I would become even wealthier, that I could secure my future forever. But within months, everything collapsed. The business was a scam. The so-called expert disappeared. Authorities said it wasn't just me. Dozens had been fooled. My entire fortune gone. Overnight, I went from wealthy to bankrupt. I stared at my bank account in horror. My body went cold. The air left my lungs. Millions had vanished into thin air. I remember screaming, sobbing, clutching my hair, asking myself how I could be so stupid. How could I lose it all so quickly? But the pain didn't stop there, because once the money was gone, so were the people. The same cousins who called every day stopped answering my messages. Friends who begged me to join them for dinners now ghosted me. Even my neighbors, who once smiled at me, looked the other way when I passed. I was invisible again. Worse than invisible, I was pitied. I sold my apartment. I gave up the luxuries I had bought. Slowly, piece by piece, I dismantled the life I had built with my inheritance. I moved back into a smaller space, humbled and heartbroken. But even then, the crash wasn't over. Because money wasn't just about comfort, it had also changed my self-worth. Without it, I felt empty, lost, useless. I battled with depression. Some nights I stayed awake crying, wishing I had never inherited anything in the first place, because at least then I wouldn't have tasted the sweetness of freedom only to have it ripped away. But rock bottom has a way of forcing you to see yourself clearly. And it was there, at the lowest point, that I realized something life-changing. Wealth is fragile, but survival is strength. I started again. This time, not with millions, not with shortcuts, and not with fake friends. I found a steady job, I budgeted carefully, I built small, honest savings. It was slow, painfully slow, but it was mine. Every coin I earned was a piece of my resilience. And slowly, I began to see that survival wasn't about wealth. It was about heart, about strength, about not giving up even when life strips you bare. Today, I'm not rich. I don't live in luxury, but I am alive, stronger, and wiser. And if you ask me, I'll tell you this. Overnight wealth can disappear just as quickly as it arrives. But the battle for survival, that stays with you. It makes you who you are. Because in the end, I didn't just lose millions. I gained something greater. I gained myself. So this was my story. How I became wealthy overnight, lost it all in a single crash, and fought to survive. If my journey taught me anything, it's this. Never let money define you. Because the truest wealth is resilience, courage, and the strength to rebuild when everything collapses. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel TEARSTINGS for more powerful life stories.